Hey everybody, welcome to Dunrovin Ranch in lovely Lola, Montana. You will see that is not me up there. Those are some horses with their their rumps turned toward the wind and the rain. I am in the ranch office. Never fear. Jake and I are in here, and this is Fur and Feathers, the broadcast during which we introduce you to one of our members and their beloved critters. And also never fear that I will be feeding everyone lunch after the broadcast, and they can warm their little bones that way. Also, so today, this is so weird just talking into space. I am on the...
I do it all the time.
I bet you know who that is. That is our very own MI Blue, Diane. Welcome.
Thank you. I love talking into space.
It's not really space because Jake's here. Sorry, Jake.
I get answers.
You know what? I don't think that's for this particular broadcast, Diane. But we can have a mental health program, and I'm sure I will have a line out the door of people wanting to be on the I'm sure. Anyway, so we did this once before, and who we didn't really get to was this force of nature named Emily.
Yes. Emily actually was a force of nature. She was one of the most unusual she was the most extraordinary animal I ever owned.
She's, you posted the guidelines on the chat, which we will put on again, so people can find them. But now I've known Abyssinians, and she's an Abyssinian.
She is indeed. But I don't see her head on the ranch cam yet.
It'll be there shortly.
Okay. Okay. Emily, now I'm going to start my discussion of the Abbeys, and I hope that all of you get to read. I want Celia to put up that link she had to the Cat Association's definition of what an Abyssinian is. And if I can find it, if we don't get it up before that, I'll find it afterwards and post it again, because it was really very, very specific and very telling about what an Abbey, what their characteristics are, and they are very different than almost any cat you're going to find. But
Julia just posted it, so good, we're good.
Oh, well, I see cat slide 1. What's that? Okay, that's one of them. That's fine. She had several up, and that's perfect. Now, I started out wanting Abyssinians, when I had just about married my husband, which was a long time ago. Mm-hmm. And we had an absolutely amazing Siamese cat named Livingston, and you know what his brother was named. And Livingston died, and I was catless. And my husband, in an attempt to console me, went out and adopted 2 Abyssinian cats from a cattery where where they couldn't be sold or couldn't be used anymore. And those were my first Abyssinians. You want to guess at the name? One was named MI Blue.
Let me see.
And she was a blue Abyssinian, and the other was Fanny Fawn. Those were my very first 2. Mm-hmm. MI Blue was a mother to Emily.
Okay.
So Emily is part of the super smart family set out by MI Blue, who was as smart as Emily. I'm telling you, they both just had me whipped around their paws. Right. However, then eventually MI Blue died, and when MI Blue died, I was left with Fanny Fawn, and I wanted to do I wanted to have 2 cats. I've never ever wanted to have just 1 cat. I always liked 3, but just having 1 cat, Fanny Fawn, was not enough, and she was bereft. She was really beside herself because she'd lost her mother, which was MI Blue. Yeah. So I went back to the cattery and said, well, you had MI Blue's sister, Betty Blue. They were very good at naming cats, much better than I am, Betty Blue. I said, I want Betty Blue. And they said, fine, but if you take Betty Blue, you have to take this other cat that we had wanted to breed, but we won't. I said, how come? But I'll take her anyway. They said, well, Emily was sold to somebody, and then they returned her because she was too ornery. She was too, she acted up, but she came back to the cattery, and they had not fixed her. Because whenever you adopt a cat that isn't fixed from a cattery, you're supposed to fix it within the first 6 months. But they hadn't. And they took a look at Emily, and they said, oh, she is so beautiful. We're going to try and breed her instead of just fobbing her off. So they sent her down to North Carolina, my Emily, and she went down to a breeding station in North Carolina where most of their gents stayed.
Okay.
And she was in high heat when she left Baltimore, which is where she came from, a cattery. And she got shipped down to North Carolina to be bred. The minute she went into the cattery, she went out of heat. And they said, well, that happens when they travel and, so on and so forth. But she stayed out of heat, and after 6 months, they said, your cat's never come into heat again. She's eating us out of house and home. We're going to return her to you. Oh, God. So much for breeding Emily. So they brought her back, and they thought, well, maybe, and she went into heat the minute she came into their house and into their cattery again. So they said, well, we'll go get a gent and bring him into the house. Right. And the minute Emily saw the gent, she went out of heat again.
Well, there's your answer.
So they looked at her and said, well, if you're going to get returned and you aren't going to breed, we're going to have to give you away. Yes. Does that tell you something about Emily, that she could go in and out of heat at will, and she just didn't want to have kittens?
Yeah, she clearly was over that.
Oh, Emily was young. She was under 2 years old at that time. She was at her breeding peak. So they had her fixed, and they said, if you want Betty Blue, you have to take Emily, too. I said, that's fine. That would give me 3 cats. I can deal with 3 cats. I lived in a house that had 3 floors, so they all had their own floor to themselves. And she came with her mother, mind you. She and Betty Blue beat up each other so badly that I had to get rid of one of them.
Oh, gosh.
It was that bad. They would have fought to the death, I'm telling you. They were both from the same cattery. They'd known each other. But the minute they got into my house, it was a matter of dominance.
Wow.
And Emily, meantime, went down, took one look at my husband, who had always complained that I had all the cats. They all loved me. They didn't love him. Pointed her little golden paw at him and said, you are going to be mine. You are going to take care of me. You are going to protect me. I am going to love you, but you are going to be my owner.
Wow.
So he wouldn't let me return Emily, so I had to return MI Blue to the cattery. And it was like losing my beloved, I had to return Betty Blue. On really good foot.
That's bizarre.
She's such a cat. Is her face up and I'm just not seeing it?
Yeah, it's up. I'm watching it on the cams.
Oh, I see it now. I gotcha. Anyway, but that's Emily, and you're taking a look at her plotting to do something.
I can tell.
She has a very plotting face, let me tell you. But there are 3 or 4, I'm going to tell you 3 short stories about Emily to show you what an extraordinary Abby she was. I mean, Abbies are extraordinary in their own way, right. But she was the smartest cat I have ever seen. Aha, and there is a picture of the normal Emily, the way Emily liked to pose, and she liked to say, this is what I look like. Now go to the next slide.
Oh, God.
The next slide is the real Emily.
Uh-huh.
You'll see it in a minute, because she had a real personality. There you go. That's the real Emily.
Wow.
But Emily and Clyde, I had one other cat at that time. I got a Siamese cat, who I have to tell you was named Clyde Thunderpussy.
Oh, funny.
And he was the stupidest animal I have ever seen in my life. I have never, ever, even my husband, who was the most generous and loving of all people, even my husband had to admit that Clyde was really needy in the intellectual side, but he was gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous.
Well, at least you had that.
Well, now I'm going to go to the next slide, which I think should be Clyde, because you're not going to see another picture of him until now. Oh, no. Okay, I'm sorry, I mixed up my very own stories. Actually, this is what my desktop looked like. Everybody else has a desktop with a PC and all this stuff. I just have cats on my desktop.
Oh, literally. Oh.
Literally. And that actually is Bocce on the right. But Emily absolutely hogged the desktop. He just absolutely hogged it. And Emily liked to make sure that she was always present wherever I was. After Jonathan died, when Jonathan was alive, she always was his cat until the day he died.
Wow.
She really, really did own him. But she also owned my desktop because he wouldn't let her sit on his desktop. So I would do as a good port in the storm, so to speak. But I had an immense respect for Emily. Emily and I respected each other. She knew I knew how to talk to cats, and I knew she knew how to understand me. I never treated her like a cat. I treated her like something that would understand what I was saying.
Right.
And she tried very hard, and she did. So if you go to the next slide, I'm going to show you what my desk looked like and my office looked like with Emily, and then we'll go on to Clyde.
Okay. There she is, looking out.
Oh, yeah, because she liked to be up on the top of the bookcase. That, by the way, is a 7-foot bookcase. She would jump up there in one leap, but basically as she got older, she had to go from where the fax machine was to get up there.
Right.
But she loved high places. That's where she felt safe and in charge. She supervised from up there.
Of course.
Of course. And the next picture?
This makes me want to get a cat.
Well, if you do, get an Abby.
Oh, God, I haven't had cats in decades. But maybe when the dogs are gone, I'll think about it. Not if I'm here, though, but maybe in the future.
Yeah, no, I know. Suzanne and I used to have discussions about why no cats. The next slide would be okay.
Yeah.
And then I'll get on to my Clyde story, because it just demonstrates.
You want to move on to the next slide?
Yep.
Okay, this is coming. This looks like Emily on her back, or is that Clyde?
Yeah, no, that's Emily. That's Emily, the graceless. She would go to sleep in front of my PC like that.
Oh, funny.
Ah, disgusting. I kept telling her she's a female cat, for God's sakes. Right. She would just lie there like that. She was the funniest cat. She'd say, so? She was a smart aleck.
Smart aleck.
But that's what my desktop looked like when Emily was alive, you know, bottoms up. Yes, see, it gotcha.
Oh,
okay.
Look at this picture. It's coming.
Ah, that's Clyde. Isn't that a beauty?
Great picture.
Yep, that's Clyde the Stupid. Oh. He was gorgeous, absolutely the most gorgeous cat, but the stupidest. So he and Emily, in their own way, became what I called the old grumpy couple. She was so smart, she would run rings around him, and she would trick him into doing horrible things. And he would sort of just put up with it because he was a good, you know, go along to get along, you know, that type of a cat.
Uh-huh.
And he was just, you know, he didn't do too much. But anyway, one day when I drove up to the house, and this is, you know, Emily was extraordinary because she could plot something out.
Right.
Most cats can't do that. But Emily could. I came up to the house, and as I drove in the back of the house, I heard this wah, 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 which was Clyde's call. And I thought, wow, is he loud? And I don't even, you know, wow, you know, the windows are open. He sure can vibrate out here. And I walked into I had a gated courtyard in the back of the house. And I walked into the courtyard, and there's Clyde sitting right at the top of the stairs, yelling at the top of his lungs. And I looked at him and I said, Clyde, how did you get out? Because I very carefully locked all the doors.
Right.
I said, how did you get out? And I looked over at the kitchen window, and Emily was just sitting in the kitchen window, cleaning her paw. She had learned how to flip open the hooks on the screen.
Oh, no.
She opened the screen, she let Clyde out, and then brought the screen back.
Wow, that's scary.
Oh, I was so impressed. I actually didn't know whether to reprimand her or not because I just started laughing. And I thought, stupid cat walked right out the open screen, didn't he? Which I thought was pretty funny the first time I saw it. And of course, I rewarded her by laughing, and she knew that when I laughed, she had done something really good. So she made me laugh. The whole time I owned her, she made me laugh.
Yeah.
Now, all of that was very funny until one day I was sitting up on the third floor, which happens to be where Clyde is sitting. I was sitting up on the third floor in my office, and I hear Clyde, and I think, wow, you know, he sounds close, but I can't see him. I walked over to my husband's office. I didn't see him. I walked out. My phone rang. I saw Emily sitting in the window, but, you know, I didn't put that together. I heard my phone rang. My next door neighbor called and said, Diane, your cat is outside. I said, are you kidding me? And I said, so I ran all the way down 3 flights of stairs, ran out into the courtyard thinking she'd let him out again. And I looked, and he wasn't in the courtyard. And I looked up, and she had opened the screen on the third floor.
She was trying to push him out.
Opened it and pushed him out. And he had gotten caught in a rain gutter that ran underneath that window. The only way I got him in was pulling him up by that huge long tail that you see there.
Oh, Emily is like an evil spawn or something.
And only once did I see Clyde get really pissed off at her. And my husband and I were standing there, and obviously Emily had been hectoring at Clyde all day. And all of a sudden he pulled himself up to his full stance, took his paw, which had no claws on it, and whacked her across the face.
Oh, that's so funny.
I looked at my husband. He looked at me, and we both said, way to go, Clyde.
That's incredible.
But she used to just egg him on, and he evidently liked the attention. So what can I tell you? They were like the grumpy old couple, and when he died, she mourned for a long time.
Yeah, I bet.
He really did. But Emily and you know, but the fact that she could plan those things, I thought was so astonishing.
That is astonishing. You know that movie, that Stephen King movie, Christine, about the car that killed people? You need to make a You actually, I think that people would go nuts over a movie called Emily, about a cat that was similar.
Well, now give me the next picture. Go to the next slide, and I'll show you what Emily thought about letting Clyde out the window.
Jeez.
That was Emily's response to it all.
Oh, that is evil.
That's okay. He was okay. You pulled him out of the gutter, didn't you?
She's planning her next trick.
Oh, absolutely. But let me tell you about Emily as my helper, because she was my kitchen mate. So go to the next slide.
I can't believe you let her around knives.
Oh, she learned to use them.
Oh, yes, you did. I'm glad you're still with us, Diane.
No, Emily was very funny because she wanted to be on the counters where I was cutting things. I'm surprised I didn't cut her whiskers, because half the time she was down looking at what I was doing, or smelling what I was doing, or sticking her paw on what I was doing. You know, she had to know what I was doing. She was supervisor. You know. Anyway, so to make a long story short, finally, I got that, and I said, okay, Emily, I don't mind you being on the counter as long as you know that's your counter. And I gave her a specific part, a counter space next to the coffee pot that was over to the left of the sink.
Right.
And that was her counter. And she could sit there, and I would show her what I was doing, but didn't want her on all the rest of the counters. And she was very good about that. She'd stay on her counter. Or she'd jump up into the top of the cabinets, which is where she really liked to supervise. When I had lots of parties and things like that, she'd go up to the top of the cabinet where nobody could reach her, including me, should I wish to pull her down, to watch everything that was going on. But anyway, at one Thanksgiving, of course, I had, as you always do at Thanksgiving, dishes and everything spread all over every counter. And over to the left by the coffee pot, I had put the turkey in the turkey pan, in the broiler, in the pan, that I was going to cook, in the roasting pan. And, but I had pots and pans all over the place. And, Thanksgiving was always a big deal at my house. So anyway, all of a sudden, I looked over at Emily's counter, which of course had this huge big hulking turkey on it. And she had squeezed herself between the turkey pan and the wall just to show me she knew it was hers, but, she was really being put out about this turkey being on her counter. And I wish I had a picture of that because it was really funny looking. I just burst out laughing. And, of course, I moved the turkey.
Oh, geez. She's amazing.
Isn't she? She really, really was. She was so smart. And again, she and I had a special relationship. She did not have that relationship with my husband because he always treated her like a cat. Right. But I always treated her as a challenge. Yeah. And I treated her as if she understood me, and she did. And we had a really good time together. So one last story about Emily. If you go on to the next slide, whenever we went up to Cape Cod, because we went up to Cape Cod once a year, I would take the cats with me. And it was the only time they were ever allowed outside because we lived on a cul-de-sac, so there was no traffic, and they could go out in the sand dunes, and, so they were allowed outside. This was their outside life, was when we went to the Cape. And they just absolutely loved it. And there were two stories. One is that Emily, of course, learned how to kill a chipmunk because she didn't know how to kill chipmunks. She only knew how to catch them and bring them inside, which drove my mother crazy. My mother's cats took one look at her and said, "You are the stupidest animal we've ever seen." And, of course, Emily was not used to being called a stupid animal.
Oh, no. And
they showed her how to take a chipmunk, whack it down on the deck, break its neck, and eat its guts.
Oh, God. That terrified her.
But Emily never did that. She wanted to play with the chipmunk. She wasn't too big on killing the chipmunk.
Yeah.
So she sort of stopped doing chipmunks for a while. But what she did on one trip, and you can't see it from here, is but from that deck, you could see a tree that was easily, I'm going to say, 40 feet tall. Oh. Now, my mother's cats, who were not Abyssinians, they were Oriental Shorthairs, learned to walk along the top of the roof line, and they had found a way to get to the top of the roof line. So they taught Emily how to walk on the top of the roof line, which was interesting for me to see because she learned from other cats as easily as she learned from me.
Right.
But then cats going up are easy. Cats never come down easily.
Right, I've heard that.
They don't know how to get down as easily as they know how to get up on a roof or down on a roof. So at one point, I showed her I pointed to various things. I walked around and showed her where there was a vine she could come down and a shortcut down. So she did that. Next time I look, my mother's going, "Oh my God, look where Emily is." And I look over at this tree that is like 30 to 40 feet tall, and she is easily halfway up it. And I said, "Emily, don't do that. Stop." And, of course, she kept going up because she was so proud of herself, and she was showing off to the other two cats. "Look how far up I can go. This is further than the roof line." And I thought, she's going to have a lot of trouble getting down. And my mother's sitting there. "Should I call the fire department?" I said, "Not yet. I think I can talk her out of that tree." She said, "You can't." "No, you can't." So I looked at her and I said, "Emily," And she looked at me. I mean, we had eye contact all the way, even though she was pretty far away. And I told her what branch to go to, and I pointed to the branch. And she looked at me, and she looked back at where I was pointing and jumped to that branch. Wow. Now, I'm going to say it took me easily 35, maybe 40 minutes to get her down out of the tree, branch by branch by branch by branch by branch. But I finally got her down. And my mother couldn't believe she paid attention to where I told her to go. She went to each branch that I told her to go to.
That's remarkable. Now, you know,
it was amazing. It was truly amazing.
Well, you know, the osprey nest is 37, 38 feet, so that's how high she was.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. She could not have, if she had jumped in there, she would have been dead. And she knows that. Yeah. So she was willing to let me talk her down out of that tree. She knew she needed help. I have never, ever had another cat that has been that smart.
That's amazing, really.
Yeah. And my husband, of course, had his eyes closed the whole time.
Yeah, I'm sure he did.
He was sure we had lost a cat. You know, he was all for calling the fire department, which would have embarrassed her. I mean, come on, she's better than that.
Oh, she wouldn't have let them bring her down.
No, probably not. She wouldn't have. But she would let me bring her down.
That's really
And she was just, I mean, she and I were partners. She loved my husband. She adopted my husband, but she was my partner. And there's the last picture of Emily, very close to when she died. She died at 19.
Oh,
she was a very old cat. Most of my cats have never made it to that age. But she was just astonishingly a wonderful animal.
Wow. What an amazing group of stories. That's so cool.
Well, she was a cool cat. She really, really was. And, you know, she was so extraordinary. And the funny thing was to own her and Clyde at the same time. I mean, it was like opposite ends of the spectrum. And yet, I think in many ways she took care of him and he took care of her.
Right. Yes. Oh, that's really beautiful, Diane. Thank you so much for sharing. Last time we spoke, you said that you had great Emily stories, and you weren't kidding. Thank you. That was wonderful.
Oh, okay. And I took more than my 15 minutes. But if anybody wants to know anything about Abyssinians, I am happy to talk about them forever.
Well, you haven't, you know, I used to work when I was younger. I worked at vets' offices, and we would get Abyssinians, and they are different. They are definitely
Yes, they
different.
are.
So if anyone has any questions for MI Blue or any more Abyssinian comments, put them in the member chat, and I'm sure that you will address them, yes, as they come up.
Yep, I'm on member chat.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, you love Clyde. I like C loves Clyde, too. Clyde was very lovable. Clyde was, you know, if there were children in the house, all of the Abbeys would disappear because they know how to do that.
Yeah.
Clyde would just stand there, and little kids would drag him around, and they drag his backside down across the floor, and Clyde would just sit there. He was the best cat with kids. Emily was not good with children.
I can imagine.
Emily was certainly not good with children.
Thank you again so very much for joining us today. I appreciate it.
Okay, Kelly, and thanks for inviting me. I'm running out of cats, so.
Well, get another one.
Well, no, I got 3 at the moment.
That's it. Okay.
That's my limit.
We'll talk to you really soon. I appreciate it so much.
Okay, Kelly, take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone, for joining us today. That was fun. Diane is always a lot of fun, and Emily, it blows my mind about Emily. Thank you for joining us on Fur and Feathers. If you have a pet or some wild birds or anything that you'd like to share with the members, let us know. And we can put you on the phone and show your pics Sundays, 2 o'clock Montana time. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.